What is up, guys? Eric here with TeamEccenTrick, and for the first time on the channel, I'm going to be profiling my ZEFRA Endymion-esque deck. It's just ZEFRA Pendulum stuff. I've been testing with this deck for a little while now, and honestly, I really like it. I will admit, obviously, as you guys will notice, if you watch Team King of Games' channel, I believe his nickname is 3 Stacks. That dude actually really knows his stuff, especially with this deck, so shouts out to him. I took a few of his combos and a few of his ideas with the deck, kind of integrated into my style, my play style, and I really like it because it, in a lot of ways, reminds me of Mermail, which is kind of a big theme of my channel, obviously. I like decks that are very sophisticated, take a lot of combos, and they have really high ceilings and really, you can mold the deck around whatever combos you like, and the deck is really malleable. That's kind of one of my favorite things about Pendulums, especially alongside decks like Mermail or Dragunity or things like that. There's just a lot of different things you can do with the decks, and that's something that I feel like I gravitate towards. So I did incorporate some of the combos from 3 Stacks from Team King of Games in the channel, and I really like the way this deck functions. So I will no longer hesitate, and we'll get right into it. So to start off, I play 2 Zephyra. You only need 2 of this. Any more than that is kind of a brick. Effectively, what this card does, and I will be explaining some of the cards, by the way, guys. Effectively, what this card does in the scale is it allows you to, during your main phase, you can add 1 Zephyr Pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck face up, and if you do, you can change this card's scale to that monster scale. So effectively, this becomes whatever scale that you send from your deck. So it's kind of like, in a way, its own Electromite, which is really strong, because you can literally make it a scale 1, scale 7, whatever Zephyr you send from your deck to your extra deck, this adopts that scale. So it's really strong in that sense. It allows you to basically set up the scales that you need in that particular scenario. So moving on, we play 1 Zephyra, the Secret of the Yang Zing. This on summon allows you to search a Zephyra Speller Trap, which is really, really important. You can also search the Yang Zing Speller Trap, but I don't play any of the Yang Zing Speller Traps. I just play the Zephyr spells, which is really, really strong because this card just effectively allows you to get into your counter traps or your counter trap and just set up negates. So it's also good for some of the combos, as you will see, or if you have already watched Team King of Games' channel, you will know that this card is really, really strong in that it can do some really nutty stuff. So the fact that it's an Earth is also really relevant, as I'm sure some of you guys know. So moving on, we play 1 Zephyra. This card is just really, really good. It pops set cards, I believe, so that's really, really strong. Plus it's a 19 body, and it's a scale 7, and it's in certain situations where, like, you draw the Secret of the Yang Zing along with the Zephyra, because that can be one of the awkward situations that you end up in, where you don't have Zephyra in the deck, or you don't have Zephyra in the deck. Sorry about that. You don't have Zephyra in the deck. You have it in your hand alongside Zephyra. You need another scale 7 to send. So this can act as that. It can act as another level 4. It can be an extender. There's a lot of things that this deck does, and honestly, these cards all contribute to that. I also play Zephyra. This card is a 21 defender, 0 attack points, but that's the thing. It is a scale 1, but when it's in the scale, just like any of the other Zephyr monsters that aren't Zephyra, you can only pendulum summon Zephyr monsters. So it's not recommended that these go in scale, but if it's necessary that you have to put them in the scale in order to complete your scales, it happens sometimes. It is what it is. The deck is really very combo based, and sometimes you just don't draw the best hands, but it happens, guys. So this card pops face up cards when it's flip summoned, normal summoned, or pendulum summoned, so that's definitely a thing. And then for the last Zephyr monster, we play 1 Zephyra, the Treasure of the Yang Zing. This guy turns any of your other Zephyr monsters into tuners, which is really, really strong in setting up a board. It just allows you to do some really crazy combos, which I'm sure some of you guys, if you watch Team King of Games' channel, 3 Stacks knows his stuff when it comes to this deck. That dude is a fucking beast. Just putting that out there. So we got that. That's the Zefra engine. Next, we are playing a small Endymion engine, very, very small here. So 3, Servant of Endymion. This card is really imperative to getting some of your combos started. It allows you to get an Electromite very, very quickly, as well as setting up your Nibiru out, which is Mythical Beast Jackal King. This card is ridiculous. You activate a spell card against 2 spell counters, and it can remove 2 spell counters from it and negate. And also, if it's summoned off of Endymion, it already has 1 spell counter, so you're already kind of set up in order to start negating cards, which is really, really nice. So then for the last Endymion card, we play Endymion, the Mighty Master of Magic. This card's really, really strong in that it can act as a scale 8, which is actually really relevant, or it can be a level 7 body, which allows you to overlay into your Odd Eyes, the Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon, and then link off and go into Vortex, which is really, really strong. So that's it for the Endymion package, or the Spell Counter package, I like to call it. Then we're moving on to the typical Pendulum support. 3 Chronograph Sorcerers, 1 Time Gazer Magician. This is all standard. What's actually really cool is that Chronograph Sorcerer allows you, when a card is destroyed while this is in your hand, you can special summon this from your hand, and if you do, special summon another card from your hand. So like, even if you brick with the Time Gazer Magician, if you can at least get like Electromite on the board, or at least figure out a way to destroy a card on your field, the Chronograph Sorcerer can trigger from your hand and special summon itself and the bricked Time Gazer Magician, which allows for an immediate Electromite right there, so that's a thing. Or an immediate link to, or what have you, it allows you to extend, so that's a thing. Then for the other Pendulum extenders, we play 2 of the Supreme King Dragon Darkworm. This card is really, really good. Obviously, we all know why. It allows you to search your Supreme King Gate 0, which is a scale of 0, so you can special summon basically anything from your deck that's between 0 and whatever other scale you have. To move on, we have 1 Aether, the Evil Empowering Dragon. A lot of people, I know some people play the Amorphage Goliath, and I don't disagree, but I feel like Amorphage Goliath doesn't work against certain decks. Like if you play against, like, say, for example, True Draco, you want to start banishing stuff, not locking them out of their extra deck, because their extra deck is irrelevant in certain matchups. Like, for example, if you're playing against, let's say, Cosmo or Mermail or something like that, it's not a deck that doesn't utilize its extra deck as often as other, meta decks or anything like that. Like if you're playing against some random rogue deck, this is removal. And not only that, but if you're getting this off of the Hieratic Seal, that's 2 cards removed in one effect, because you're tributing the Hieratic Seal to bounce something, and then triggering the Hieratic Seal Engraved to special summon this, reduces attack and defense to 0, and then target something to banish. And it's all on separate chain links, so it just allows you to remove cards for the least amount of investment possible in terms of the amount of cards you utilize for that combo. So that is that. Moving on, we play 1 Perform Power Odd Eye Synchron. This is the tech that is used in the 3 Stacks' deck, or at least one of his deck profiles, I remember. This allows you to go into things like Calamities, or you can even just hand loop your opponent for 2 and then do, set up negates that way, which is very effective in my opinion. Sounds a lot like a certain water deck that I play. Take 2 cards out of my opponent's hand, set up negates. Similar to, one particular deck that I like. Moving on, we have 1 Destrudo, because being able to synchro straight into a 7 with any of your other monsters on board is really, really strong and really, really imperative to this deck's strategy. So that's something that is necessary. Then we have 1 Mermere, because we are playing the Yazi, and Yazi allows you to go into Boral Sword and kill, so that's something you also want to consider. I mean, it's not necessary, but it is something that I think is really, really relevant, because if you're in a situation where you can make a Boral Sword and kill, you might as well do it, and this just allows you to extend into this with Yazi, so that's something that I think is really, really good. Granted, the Mermere is a bit of a brick, but you can mold your plays in a way that even if it was a brick, you can still utilize the card as like a discard or something like that for Ravine or something like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to use it. But moving on, we play triple Oracle of Zephyra. You want to see, your Oracle of Zephyra, or you want to see your Zephrath, or you want to see your Zephyr cards as soon as possible, because those are what establish your negates. The rest of the Pendulum cards in this deck just kind of get you to your resources, whereas your resources are actually the Zephyr cards in effect. So I feel like maximizing maximizing seeing the Zephyr cards is really important. So that's 1 Zephyra spell card. Then after that, we're playing 3 Zephyr Providence. This is another search card. It allows you to search any Zephyr card in your deck. So you can literally search the Oracle of Zephyra. Like, let's say, for example, you have Servant, and you see Zephyr Providence. if you have Servant, for example, okay? So you have the Servant, you activate Zephyr Providence, you search Oracle of Zephyra, right? So that's 1 spell counter. Oracle of Zephyra, search Zephyrath, that's 2 spell counters. Activate Zephyrath, that's 3 spell counters right there. You get Servant and the mythical, the mythical beast card. So that's really effective in setting up and establishing negates and doing stuff. So this is a very basic kind of play structuring that you can formulate there. From there, we play 3 Spell Power Mastery. This is obviously standard in any deck that plays the Endymion package. Even a small Endymion package, you want 3 of this, so that's mandatory. You're maximizing on seeing all the cards that are necessary to formulate combos, and then from there, we play triple Dragon Shrine. I know that's kind of weird because Dragon Shrine's a hard once per turn. You don't want to see multiples, but sending the Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm is really imperative to starting combos because you want to get that gate 0. You want to do stuff, and even if you see the Dark Worm, or even if you see the gate 0, for example, you can send Destrudo, which is also a really good way to formulate combos. So this card, honestly, I play it at 3 because it's also a free spell counter. So that's really good. And if you're sending the Supreme King Dragon Dark Worm, it can actually be 2 spell counters because you add the Supreme King Gate 0, which acts as a Pendulum Scale and acts as another spell counter. So that's the thing. Then for the 1 of spells, we play 1 Ravine so that you can really turbo out those Supreme King Dragon Dark Worms or even the Destrudo. It is really imperative that you get to those. 1 set rotation. I know that that's weird because we only play 1 Dragon Ravine, 3 Oracle of Zephyra, but trust me, you need to see 1 of your field spells in some way. And to follow up with that, we also have Terraforming and Foolish Burial. Cards that just allow you to get into your combo pieces to set up your board. That is literally what we're playing. It is literally Turbo Electromite / Counter Trap the deck. That is what the deck is effectively for. So the last 2 cards are 2 trap cards. The 2 Zephyr traps. 1 Zephyr Divine Strike and 1 Zephyr War. I know a lot of people actually don't play War and they just play the Divine Strike, and that's actually not bad because if you see these cards in your hand, they can be bricks, and obviously I'm not optimizing on consistency if I'm playing multiple trap cards that don't contribute to combos, but I feel like the fact that you're playing more removal cards and you're playing more trap cards that are searchable allows you to mitigate the boards where your opponent really draws the nuts and goes crazy and tries to go in on you and kill you. It just allows you to really mitigate an issue where you might see Boral Sword or something like that. If your opponent tries to OTK you right then and there, it just really allows you to disrupt your opponent. And that's something that I feel like is really important, especially in this deck, because that's what this deck is for. It's literally you set up a bunch of different negates, a bunch of different disruptions, and just sit on it until you can make Boral Sword and OTK. And I've done that multiple times. So the next thing, we're getting into the extra deck. So the extra deck consists mostly of Link monsters. There's a few weird cards in here that a lot of people might question, might disagree with, but I've honestly been testing it, and I really do like this, this extra deck, to be honest. So we'll go into it. We start with the Boral Sword. Obviously, the Boral Sword is in here because Yazi, Mare tokens, kill. Zephyra Metaltron, because this allows you to get back the Heavy Metaphors Electromite if it goes to your graveyard, and it does a lot of different stuff. Plus, it's a 25 beater, and if you link 3 with it, with the Absolute Dragon, you can immediately get a Vortex. So then we play Triple Burst Dragon because we are playing a Guard Dragon, just a small Guard Dragon package with LP. No Pisty because obviously, a lot of your cards aren't going to the graveyard anyway. So, I mean, granted, you can obviously send Destrudo and then bring it back with Pisty, but that doesn't make sense when Destrudo has its own effect to bring itself back. Then, obviously, the main combo card that allows you to get into basically all of your resources, Heavy Metaphors Electromite. This card is so ridiculous. I wish it was at 3, to be honest, because if it was at 3, I'd be playing Pendulum decks a lot more often. But I do like this Pendulum deck as a fun side option, or as a fun alternative option to my competitive decks like Thunder Dragon or Mermail. This deck is fun. So then Hieratic Seal of Heavenly Spheres, this card allows you to get into Aether to bounce and then banish, which is really, really strong. So you definitely want to play this. Plus, there have been combos where I'll end up with the Absolute Dragon with another dragon monster on board, and then I'll link the Absolute Dragon with the other dragon, Triple Burst Dragon, and I'll link them up into this, and then you establish this and a Vortex Dragon underneath it, which is really strong because then you have a bounce, a banish, and a negate that sends stuff back. So that's really, really good. After that, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, just so that you can link up into Boral Sword. Generally, that's what it's for, but you can also pop monsters with it. Unfortunately, Nightmare Phoenix would be the better option. I have no extra Nightmare Phoenixes. I'm going to be getting some soon, so I apologize for that, guys. But either way, Nightmare Cerberus is still an option so that you can link up into Boral Sword, because that's its main function in this deck. So, you know, just obviously be aware of that. Then LB as one of the link ones, because LB just allows you to summon your Dark Worm or your Destrudos, or even your Aether if you're going second from your deck. Like, there have been combos where, like, I'm going second and I have the Dark Worm on board with the cards pointing in the right zones, and I just go into Aether and then banish stuff and then keep linking up. You know, this deck can link climb very, very easily. And then last but not least for links, 1 Link Karibo, just so you can obviously link off the tokens from Mare and go into the Nightmare Cerberus and then keep tributing them off so that you can get into Boral Sword. So that is the general combo. Now that's it for the links. So we're getting into the Xyz monsters. We only have 2. 1 True King of All Calamities, 1 Odd Eyes Absolute Dragon. The True King of All Calamities is really not difficult to make. If you watch 3 Stacks' video, he's really good with this deck. I really took a lot of inspiration from him, and I'm not taking credit for this build. I'm just taking credit for doing this profile, I guess. But I'm not taking credit at all for this build, because that dude really knows this stuff for this deck. Really, shout-outs to him. I like a lot of his content, and I really think you guys should check him out more than me, to be honest, because that dude knows his stuff. But either way, the True King of All Calamities is just such an auto-win against certain decks. Then you have Absolute Dragon that allows you to use it as link material, and you benefit off of it. It's just like how ABCs used to be before terraforming and, you know, the Ancient Fairy Dragon got hit, where you just benefit off of sending this card to the graveyard. So then moving on, we have Synchros, XX Saber Gotems. That's the tech card that 3 Stacks really inspired me to utilize, because it allows you to hand loop, and obviously I'm a Mermail player and I like hand loops, so that's kind of my thing. 1 Cloud Castle, because it allows you to bring this back and either do a 2-card hand loop, or you can overlay right into the Calamities, because they're both level 9s. Very, very simple to make. And if you guys just check out that combo online, like, it's really good. I'll try and see if I can find the video and leave a link in the description box below. Like, it's an older deck profile of his, not that old, but I think it's like a format or 2 old. But either way, it's still really good and really relevant. None of the cards have gotten hit. So, but then Yazi, so that you can go Boral Sword Kill, Odd Eyes, Meteor Burst Dragon, because it's really, really easy to use this to make the Absolute Dragon and link off into your 1 fusion monster, which is the Vortex Dragon, which is, in my opinion, probably one of the strongest cards in the deck. It's still the MVP of a lot of Pendulum decks. It's just so strong. I love this card. I love the artwork. The fact that it's a 3K booty, the fact that it's a 25 attacker, the fact that it's a level 7 monster, and the fact that it negates and sends a Pendulum monster back to the main deck is just ridiculous from the extra deck. So it's really, really good. But that's it for the main and extra, but now we'll get into the side deck. And now obviously, side deck is all based on your local meta and what your personal preferences are with this deck, what your particular strategy with the deck is. I play this deck to try and set up the biggest board I can going first, with as many disruptions and as many negates as possible. And then as soon as my opponent tries to play through it and then they whittle down the resources, I go Boral Sword Kill if I can. If not, then I just set up more negates and try and kill, you know, turns following. But going second is, I feel, kind of an issue for this deck. So we decide going second cards. So we side 2 Sphere modes. You could obviously use side Nibiru's. Nibiru's would be better, but all my Nibiru's are in my competitive decks like Thunder Dragon and things like that. Now, obviously I could switch them into this and switch them out, but I really don't like doing that, because then my cards get all mixed up and I just don't like dealing with the issues that come with that, especially with like deck lists and things like that at regionals or something like that. So that's a thing. But so 2 Sphere modes, 2 Pancratops just to be able to pop stuff. Plus, being a 26 level 7, what's a level 7 in this deck again? That, it happened. You know, you can make it and then link off into this. It is a thing. It has happened before. In testing, it's actually really strong. Pancratops is honestly, in my opinion, still one of the best side deck cards in the game. After that, we have some hand traps. We play 2 Ash, 2 Ogre. The hand traps are still, like, really important. Obviously, they've kind of fallen out of favor, but there still are scenarios where the right hand trap at the right time at a choking point in your opponent's combo can literally end turns. So I feel like just at least playing 2 of each in the sideboard is good. You don't want to main them, because if you main them, then you're going to brick, and then you're going to see too many hand traps and not enough pendulum cards, because that's something that pendulums, I will say, do struggle with, is seeing their combo cards if you're playing things like hand traps. So that's that. Then we're playing 2 Called by the Grave, just to out other hand traps. If your opponent has like an Ogre or a Bell or something like that, that can, well, not necessarily a Bell, but Ash, Ogre, Veiler, anything like that can really mess with your combos, and you really need to be able to, I mean, it's not too difficult to play around hand traps with this deck, especially considering you have the Jackal King, but like if your opponent baits the Jackal King with a hand trap and then Nibiru's you after, this is just an option that you can at least side in games 2 and 3. After that, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, because obviously back row removal, plus it banishes the back row, which I feel is really imperative. Plus Twin Twisters makes you discard, and you want as many cards in your hand so that you can gain advantage, because one of the things that I took to heart when building this deck is what 3Stack said is you can convert single cards into negates effectively, and that's something that is demonstrably true. Like, you can literally convert single cards to negates and not lose any card advantage off of it. So why would you want to use Twin Twisters to discard cards when you can convert them into negates and not utilize life points as a resource instead? So there's that. And then last but not least, 3 Red Reboot, because if your opponent goes Solemn or something like that, like if they're playing, let's say they're playing Stun or they're playing Judgments and Thunder Dragon or something like that, you want to be able to stop that, because you need to be able to get your summons off. That is very important. If your cards go to the graveyard, GG, it's done, it's over, scoop it up, go home, cry to mom, it is what it is. But we do side 3 Red Reboot because I feel like trap cards are really the bane of this deck's existence, especially if you're going second. So that was my ZEFRA Pendulum deck as of right now. Well, ZEFRA Endymion Pendulum, like, shenanigans. It does some pretty cool stuff, does some pretty cool boards. Again, I will try and leave a link to the video from Team King of Games' channel in my link, or in my description box below, so that you guys can see it. Again, I don't know him personally. I don't even think I live around him or anything, but he is a really, really good content creator, and he knows his stuff, especially when it comes to Pendulum decks. That dude knows his stuff. You know, he's always got the spice. I watch that dude's content all the time and get ideas from it. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I really appreciate the views you guys give us. I tried to make this deck profile as concise as I could, so give me your opinions and let me know if there's any ideas you guys would implement into this deck, and I will take that into consideration. Eric here with TeamEccenTrick, and I am signing out. Rate and subscribe, leave your comments and ideas in the comment section below, and don't hesitate to give us respectful suggestions on content you want to see. Eric on behalf of the team saying take care, and TeamEccenTrick out.